2019. We will start the regularly scheduled board meeting of the Othello School District Board of Directors with the flag salute.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'd like to welcome our guests tonight.
¿Habrá necesidad de traducción al español en esta noche para alguien? Gracias.
And I will accept a motion for the agenda.
I move we approve the agenda.
Got a motion by Director Stevenson to approve,
Second.
second by Director Roy Lance. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Move on to item B1, public comment. No, we have no request for comment, so we'll move on to item B2, board member discussions.
I have no legislative report.
I'm stuck here, so I'm refreshing my screen and it's thinking. I didn't get anything pop up to vote either. Did you all vote?
I did.
Jen, were you using my laptop earlier?
I was not. You would think so if it's all messed up, huh? I didn't get a vote.
It didn't go for you either?
It didn't come up.
Okay. I'm getting back into mine.
Should I refresh? And possibly break the whole thing for
I
all
don't
of
think
us?
the votes is important, and just if you can get to the next item, that's what matters now.
Oh, got it.
Right, I'm there too. Okay, and the next item is the Osd Regional Meeting, so you could probably all got an email about this, so this is just the information about the regional meetings that are coming up, so wanted to have some discussion by the board, if anyone's interested to go into any of them.
I saw our two options as basically Ritzville, October 3rd, or Richland, November 7th. The thing that I thought was interesting about November 7th is it's 2 days after the vote, because Tyson, you will not be with us, and the other two, you actually have contenders as well. So that could be 3 new people, potentially, at least 1 new person, if we did the Richland. And is the Richland one technically our area?
Yeah, that doesn't matter, actually, I'm not sure Richland is, but I don't think Ritzville is, I'm pretty sure Ritzville is not, but Richland actually might be our region. Yeah. And
Mike,
I think if
you're
we just sign up 5 people.
Not talking
as
into your
well.
mic, Mike.
He needs one.
I
Thank
said
you.
we've attended Richland before.
I think we can sign up 5 people also, and it's a pretty minimal cost, right? October 3rd is my anniversary, I doubt I'll go to that one.
Oh, you're no on that one. Okay. I think it's more beneficial if we're all there together. I mean, if we can't be, that's fine, but. So do we plan on November 7th?
I believe so.
And encourage the candidates to plan on that date
Tyson said
as
he's good
well?
on the 7th.
Open.
Okay.
And I don't think we have to register right now for that anyways. We wait if we need to, in case the board changes their mind. I feel like when I go this way, this stops picking me up. Anyone? We'll get some feedback. Okay, so right now tentatively we're thinking the 7th in Richland. Next item is there's a discussion around the August director linkage. So Director Stevenson and I went to the senior center for the Friday coffee and had an opportunity to sit and just discuss whatever other people who were there wanted to discuss. We then moved from there into the main area of the senior center. Some people have been doing their workouts, and
Sale.
and there was a sale.
Sale is the name of their workout.
Oh, gotcha.
stands for something. Active life. I can't remember. Something. Okay?
Yeah, so anyway, Jen, if you wanna start talking about kind of items that came up there and things like that.
So we called ahead to make sure that it was okay for us to come, and so there was quite a few people in the room off to the side, the coffee morning hour, I guess, and lots of different discussions of facilities and bond ideas, and it was just an open dialogue, lots of questions and answers and stuff. And then when we went into when they were having their cake after their workout, we
There was
both.
a birthday party, I don't think they do that every time.
It was birthday month, right? It was the birthday week, and so we kind of separated. There was two main tables of people, and I went and sat at one, and Rob sat at another. And my group, we had actually a lot of retired. I would think most of them were PSE former employees, and we had a long discussion about guns and safety and all kinds of different things. So that was a really great open discussion, and them being able to express concerns and things. And your group talked very differently than ours.
Yeah, so the table I was at, there was a lot of discussion regarding bus schedule and start times. It was just after school had started, and so that was definitely fresh on people's minds. So that was one of the things that prompted me to ask Dr. Hurst to put into the informational items some background regarding what we had heard about high school start times and the research behind that, and also I asked for him to share our own statistics on that Othello research about if that had any effect over the last few years on our tardiness. And so that's in director discussion, or superintendent informational items for the board and for the public if they want to look at that. Another thing that had come up, and I hadn't heard this until then, but there was this impression that the OSD preschool program has essentially resulted in the closure of the Nazarene preschool and possibly even the Othello co-op preschool. So I was wondering if Dr. Hurst could comment on that, or
Yeah, we've had several discussions, and I brought Director Jen Garza into the conversation, and she has a list of questions that her and I have been going over, and I'm just going to have her to respond.
So your question is around, did we cause the closure of co-op preschool and Nazarene?
I don't think that someone was saying we caused it. I'm saying that's what it ended up being that way because of the preschool taking on more kids, no cost to it. So I don't think anyone was necessarily saying the Othello School District shut down the preschool, but you know.
Correct. So it may have had some impact, but I truly believe that each program offers some different things. So for example, the Nazarene preschool is a faith-based preschool. They also serve children younger than we do. We don't take students until they're 4 years old, and they take 2 and 3. I'm not sure how young they go, but I believe they go pretty young. And we even had kids that went to them half a day and they went to us half a day, so we shared some students also. Sorry. And even when they did decide to close down their program, we probably had 10 to 15 families come to us to want to know if we took 3-year-olds, because they originally had planned to go to the Nazarene preschool, but I had to tell them no, that wasn't something we offered. So while we did have some kids come to us that may go to them, or we shared some kids, I don't think we were a huge factor on them, because I think that they offered things that our program did not offer. Same thing with the co-op preschool. I know that they've been struggling the last couple of years, even before OSD expanded. And so once again, they offered programs for toddlers, 3-year-olds, and 4-year-olds. So they also required parents to work. So I think it's a matter of what parents are looking for in the community. I've had parents come to us, and they don't want their kid to go to preschool for 3 hours for 4 days a week. And I have to tell them that's what our program is. So if they don't like that model, then they choose not to go to our program. So while our program did expand and we offer the service to more children and it is free and maybe that is an attraction for some families, I think Nazarene and Co-op also had things that attracted families. And so without directly speaking to them, I don't know what all the factors went into their decision to close their programs, but I don't think, it's my belief that it was not just OSD preschool. I also met with Pastor Depew several different times over the last couple of years talking about our programs and ways that we could both build our programs. And so I feel like we have a good working relationship with Pastor Depew.
Okay, thank you. So that was, so I didn't know the answer to that, so I was curious, and I thought that if I was gonna get the answer, I wanted the public to get the answer as well. Any questions from the board on that visit or the format? I really liked doing it that way, to be informal like that. I think people were more comfortable just to chat and bring up concerns. There was, like you said, in that first meeting with the coffee group, it really was a lot around facilities and preschool and bonds and really good comments made, but they were very,
Taxpayer money.
yeah, they were very
was kind of a
supportive. It seemed like
tie.
in general, the group was very
Yes.
supportive.
Mhm.
Okay. So the next item is, has been in here a long time, the facilities workshop, and we had waited on that until we, part of it was riding on this whole idea of preschool, that obviously we've shared the information that we are looking for a facility. We don't have a facility purchased right now, but is the board ready to have a meeting and a workshop to discuss our future with this yet? That would be the question.
I think yes, it feels like we should have had this discussion 6 months ago, and I know we weren't ready for it then, but I feel like we're already behind.
How does everyone else feel?
Definitely, I think we need to start moving forward.
I think we need to have this meeting with the wherewithal that, it may change, but something needs to get started. I agree with Jen. We might be a little behind the eight ball, but even recognizing that if we come to some sort of agreement or a plan, it can be modified at any time with the purchase of a facility or a property.
So the next thing would be to set up a date for this. Any ideas? I like that one.
She got times.
Do we want to do the 16th, next Monday?
Won't be in town.
Nope, that doesn't
Don't
work.
have to be. What's the 30th look like?
I can do the 30th.
I'm good for the 30th.
It's fine.
Yeah.
It's too easy. All right, so 30th, what time?
As soon as you can clear your
Oh,
schedule.
I should actually, how does that look for you, Dr. Hurst? Your staff?
Do we want to plan like a 6 to 8? What's the earliest you can get here, Rob? Is it
Yeah,
usually?
I mean, just after 6:15, say.
Okay.
So 6:15 to,
What if we did like 6:30 to 8:30 and then had food available starting at 6?
well, we could, we could start it. Usually that's pretty informal. We don't typically have video, so we're feeding our faces in front of a video camera, so.
Right, we don't video those.
We could probably eat at the table if we want, or eat before, it's up to the board. 6:15 or 6:30, it doesn't matter to me.
6:15.
6:15, that's good for me.
All right, so 2 hours we'll plan on? Okay. So, is there anything, I think, we need to know if the board needs any information for this meeting, Or is the plan just that board members are gonna come with their own priorities, and together we'll come up with the combined board priorities?
Didn't we come up with priorities? Did we not make a
We've discussed
prioritized
it.
list? We made like the top 5, right?
Yes. I
It's
think
been a
we're
really
gonna
long
start talking
time
about
since we've actually had these meetings.
We have to start talking about the ideas to finance though, to make this happen financially.
Okay.
And ideas have come out, but I don't know if there was a board agreement across the board to say, yep, that's how we'll do it.
Okay.
So is there anything that the board needs from the administration?
If we're gonna go to a bond or a levy, what are the dates of the next one available to have it on the ballot? That's a huge question for me. And then the very next one, and then the next one after that, if we're not ready,
So
or possibly the next 3. Let's just say the next 3.
the question would be, if we did a February ballot, what would when we need to have the resolution into the county,
Yes.
right, is that what you're asking? And then,
How-
I'm pretty sure the next one is just before the February election, so you wouldn't even know the results before you had to get the next resolution in.
How about just for the next year? If we could have the dates for the election times for the next year.
Okay, so we'll just need that provided and for us at the workshop.
Got it.
That was a fast answer, he already had the answer for us.
Awesome.
So, and if you come up with anything that you need, that you would need that's administrative, that would get the information to you, just make sure you reach out to Dr. Hurst to ask him for that. So you have that information for the workshop if you have questions.
If we do not have details on if we're going to be able to purchase a building or not, what is a timeline on getting that information?
I'm not sure I understand the question.
So we're trying to buy something, but it's the details among the lawyers that they're discussing right now. If we don't have that for our approval by that date, I mean, I know we can't approve it at that meeting, but what's a timeline that they can give us to say, we think we're gonna be ready by this date?
You're asking, okay, are you asking for an update from Dr. Hurst and kind of where they're at in the process and if they
Sure,
have an idea?
yes, that's what I'm asking.
All right. So that would be something you can share with the board.
That's so easier to say, fine.
Yeah, we know that their attorneys are still working on it, but we can get that information to you.
They've got to be able to say, we
Yeah.
think by this date. If we don't already have it, by that date, we might already have something,
Right.
hopefully,
That would be optimal.
ideal.
And as far as if it just happened to be ready just before that date, the board, as long as we have 24-hour advance notice, we could add that as an agenda item at the beginning of that meeting to,
Because we're not proving it
vote on that.
by then anyways, it would just be an informational item, and we would vote on the next meeting for it?
we could vote
Anyways?
in that workshop. If
We can.
give 24-hour advance notice, that will be an action item there. Yes.
Okay,
So that's possible, if it works out that way.
okay, great. Tyson, you may have to stop cutting that day just to come in. Just in case.
Just in case. Send
Okay.
up a smoke signal.
So we have that locked down, correct?
Great.
And that will need to be added to our board calendar. When you get a chance, if we need to, we'll approve it next meeting. Okay, the next item, this was brought up by Taylor in the last board meeting, about a student rep that she said, or a potential student rep, she said is interested. So, this is just on there to talk about where we're at with that open position. I think we decided we want to revisit it when school started and decide where the board wanted to go with that.
I think we need to come up with a plan of how to disseminate that information out there to not just current juniors, but to freshmen, from freshmen to juniors. Is there like how can we reach the high school population?
We can do, I can put it in the morning announcements, because they have, every morning, there's announcements, and so I can just, put in a little, excerpt
Okay, can you and I like maybe brainstorm some
Yeah, absolutely.
exciting ways to possibly, hey, the school board needs a person, we need a live body,
Yeah.
maybe something.
And
Okay.
then, if we can, I could shoot an email to Josh and have him, if he can
Wonderful.
do that, do it.
Yes, yeah, I'm sure that they would support that too.
Has there been any interest from the candidates that we had
No,
before school?
no. Well, I've had,
Most of those were current seniors now,
yes.
right?
So there's current seniors. There was two current juniors. But, yeah, those, the ones that came to this one expressed their concerns and how they feel like it would be too much pressure. And Isabel and I try to encourage them and say, come to a different meeting, that kind of thing. And then, so I do have a girl who couldn't make it to that meeting, but still has been trying to, like, she's been keeping in contact with me. She has been persistent, so I want to give her information back.
I do have a freshman that has expressed interest that I've been answering a few questions for as well. And then should we plan did we call that a workshop before, a study session, something so that there's like an informational, hey, if you're interested, come to this, instead of, we don't want them to go straight to an interview. We discussed last time that we wanted them to do. Isn't that what it says in their,
Well, the
Policy?
policy governance training was part of it.
right?
So, and I think we talked about
Which,
modifying that,
yeah,
so
reworking
it would be a lot shorter.
Yes, that too. Mhm.
200 slides down to 10 maybe.
So is the first step to schedule a training, put that on the calendar?
And it wouldn't hurt to have the current people that are running for office to be invited to that as well, whether it's a short and condensed with the intent of hitting students, but current candidates could benefit as well.
I think everybody could benefit from a shortened version.
I agree.
So do we want to pick a date for that? Then when you're, so I'm going to delegate to Director Stevenson this ideas on how to brainstorm and get some potential student reps interested. So I think it's only important to say that the first thing to do would be to come to the training, and then from there, I think last time then if they were interested, they'd do the application, and then from there would be the interview, right?
Yes. So the next Monday that's available is the 21st of October, so that you're in town, unless the 16th is way too early. So, is that right? It has to be not a Monday.
Did you say it has to be on a Monday, or?
It has to not be a Monday, because other than the 16th of September, that you're not available and it's too soon anyways, the next Monday that I see available that we don't already have a school board something planned is the 21st of October.
So you're feeling it needs to be sooner than that?
Yes. What do you guys think? I mean, that's a month and a half away.
It might take that long
Yeah.
to do that whole process of applications, because we're barely getting the word out as it is.
Application comes after, actually.
Right.
So the training is really just, they show up for training, and the application asks questions regarding what you learned in the training.
I think we'd lose momentum if we waited that long, if we're talking about it now.
Definitely, it'll be in 2 months before we could even have
Right.
another candidate set.
But we are banking just on that one student who has shown interest?
I think there's
There's a
more than
few.
one.
Yeah.
Okay,
There's more.
Okay.
I know of another one.
Yeah, I think there's a few.
I just went off of what Taylor had said, there was one individual that, so I thought,
Right. Can't put all those eggs in one basket. I mean, this person might blow us all away, but they might go, too much, not interested.
How
And we
long
don't
would you
want that.
expect the training to be?
Last time, we actually had instruction for about an hour, and then questions for about 30 minutes, and then ended the meeting, but then still had people stay around for more questions for about another 30 minutes. So what if we tried to go for like 30 minutes of specific information that we're giving them. Like cutting the slides by half or so.
1 hour.
And then an hour, an hour total.
So that's potentially we could do it before a board meeting then?
Yes? We could do it after October 7th. We are meeting with PSE. Could we do it, at what time are we actually meeting with them? At 6? Could we do it at 8? 8 to 9 with student reps? In the same building but a different space? Where are we meeting with PSC? Are we meeting with them in the cafetorium? That's the McFarland Gym Cafeteria Auditorium Cafetorium. Yeah.
Are you asking me?
No, I'm asking Talia, because none of us usually know the answers to those.
I don't have any facility answers.
We were just planning here at the boardroom, but I know that we're probably not going to fit everybody there, so I'm up for any suggestions that the board has. But we are only scheduled to meet with PSC for 1 hour, so if you would like to do the student rep afterwards, you could do like 7 to 8, possibly.
I would rather leave plenty of time that we could chat with members of PSC if they wanted to talk to us individually. Maybe 7:30 for the school student. So if we did it in the corridor with PSC and then in the library because then they could enter from the outside. Library for the student reps. If those spaces are available and not already being used for something else.
So PSE is 6, you said? You plan on
Yes.
6 to 8?
She said 1 hour with PSE is what has been planned, so if we're 6 to 7, and then we started 7:30 for student reps. Does that sound reasonable to everybody else? I think that we will be, hopefully, we will be talking to plenty of PSE members one-on-one, or that they'll be talking to us if you are not the social butterfly that I am.
Nobody is, Jen.
I know. Besides Taylor and I, who else could be that talkative to everyone, right?
On October 7th, the corridor at OHS is available, and the library is available as of 7:30. They have night school that day from 5 to 7:30.
It's like it was meant to happen.
If night school doesn't go over, we just don't want to say, okay, all of you go home.
There's probably another space available, I bet, in the
Sure.
high school. And so we're planning on that to be an hour.
Yes.
Okay.
So who gets to
Everyone
change
else
that one?
I think that's a good idea.
October 27th?
October 7th.
October 7th.
Oh, okay, I was like, what? October 7th.
Okay. Now, the next question is, who is going to modify the presentation? I always want to do the other one, and it went over really well. Candidates,
I think that would have to be a joint.
Yeah.
I mean, I could
I'll-
chop a bunch of it out, but you might
Yeah.
not agree with what I chop out, so I don't know what. I think there would have to be some collaboration on that.
I'll help with that.
okay,
To-
then maybe just share it with the board at our next board meeting.
Yep.
Okay,
That sounds good to me.
if it be sent to Talia, it'll be in board discussions at the next board meeting. Talia, can you make sure that they get the presentation as it was set up originally? And
So is that Ken and Tyson's both chopping?
it will need to be in PowerPoint form, not PDF.
Bring my hatchet.
Okay. finished with that?
Believe so.
All right. The last item was an item that I requested, so I'd gotten feedback from a community member regarding an absence that their child had, and I learned a lot through that process. I'm not able to link that district operating policy. When I click on it, I get an error. I'll just refresh. I'll do that again. In April, the board approved and required approvals, a new district operating policy regarding excused absences, and that was prompted by some change in RCW and WAC law. And in that process, one of the things that is no longer considered to be an excused absence is like just personal reasons. Like sometimes the question was asked of a parent, what's the reason? The parent would say, well, we just have, it's for personal reasons. And I was not aware until that was brought to my attention by this community member that that was not, is now no longer a reason for an excused absence, so it would be considered, or sorry, yeah, would be considered unexcused. And so I talked to Dr. Hurst, because I instructed the parent to go through the chain of command in their school, and then talk to Dr. Hurst to try to find out about where we were at with it as a district, trying to find out if it was a school policy or district policy. And in the end, it was a district policy. We approved it. And so a couple of things came of that for me. One of them was I've been trying to, when we have district operating policies that have been changed, they're typically changed because law changed. And so it's just reflecting the new laws. And they're also considered to be operating policies now. So I don't look at them really closely to find out what's being said in it, but the procedures for sure, I think, since they're based on that district operating policy, the board should not get involved in the procedure side of it. But as I think about it more, the operating policy itself, based on law, sometimes the interpretation, I think it's important for us as a board to make sure that our community is represented in that interpretation of it. And so when I looked at it and read it, I believe that the WAC law that changed in regards to unexcused absences and excused absences was really just to let the district know these are things you have to excuse children for. I mean, it talks about migrant families, it talks about children of families who are deployed, those kind of things, and saying you have to excuse those absences in those situations. But it allows for, at the end of the WAC law, I'll read you specifically what it says, and this way you can see if you agree. But the last sentence in WAC 392-401-020 says districts may define additional categories or criteria for excused absences. To me, that was the legislature wisely saying, you still have local control to make decisions regarding what's excused in your district. And that's my interpretation of it. I don't know if that's the way the rest of the board feels, but I think that it's important that the district and the district staff is protecting the district by saying we want to make sure we're following the law and we're not going to get in trouble with the law. And I think it's our job, one of our jobs as a board, to say when we think that this is an opportunity for local control, and we can then make some recommendations or suggestions for how it fits into what's best for our community. So you follow what I'm saying with that? So I think that it was just a kind of a copy and paste from the WAC and RCW into the district operating policy. And there's nothing wrong with that. But what I would like to ask specifically from Dr. Hurst is just to consider the importance of, first of all, parental rights. I mean, parents have a right to be able to say if their child is not going to go to school that day, and I don't think there needs to be a specific reason for it. I think the unintended consequence of the policy the way it's written right now is that the students who miss class as an unexcused absence because they don't care, they're not going to try to turn in their homework and make it up. In this case, the student turned in their homework the next day when they came back from the vacation, but because it was an unexcused absence, the teacher said, I can't accept it, it's unexcused absence. So that's a student who tried to do the right thing, a parent who made sure they got the homework done, and then the student was potentially going to get a 0 on that. And I just don't think that is really the intent of of excused and unexcused absences, in my opinion. So that, my request would be that we consider putting that language back in. I think we're still compliant with the law because of that sentence that says districts may define additional categories. So it's, I know I'm not trying to get involved in operations, but I'm just,
Right.
that's a request, specific request from me.
So I'll say, thank you for the request, Rob. I think we've already started having these conversations this weekend, today, and I think we need to bring it to the executive team also. Some of the team have not heard the conversations, so I think you're gonna hear us talk about specifically what you described as that last sentence where it says districts may define additional categories or criteria for excused absences. I know from the conversation this morning, there was some concerns that was voiced just with that one statement, but certainly there's an agreement where we don't want to penalize students unfairly. So I think you're going to see us continue this conversation in the executive cabinet, and you'll see us bring it back to the board as well.
Okay, I appreciate that. And I understand the purpose of trying to limit absences in general, but I think you understand where I'm coming from, and hopefully the board understands as well. Any comments from the
I
board on
agree.
that, or concerns that maybe a different interpretation than what I have?
So I think that this list reading through it, I mean, it covers a multitude of things. But it says the school principal has the authority to determine whether it meets these criteria or not. So then I started thinking about, when are those times that I've taken my children out of school? Like, we went to Olympia as a family, and when I called the school to say, I need to excuse my child, before it changed to this, I need to excuse my child because we took a family day and went and learned about our state government. And we toured the buildings and did all of the, I mean, it was a hugely learning experience for my kids when we did it. And so, but I sometimes have concerns about someone just saying, it's just a personal day. I can understand the perspective, but I think that could easily be abused. And if there's something that's going on, then maybe somebody needs to know that something's going on. If there's a personal reason that doesn't hit one of these specific things. So, and that's kind of a surprise. The teacher has the ability to not turn it in. They also have the ability, if you miss so many days, to force a fail, even if you're an A student. Is that still the case? Like, if you miss 10 days, then you can fail even if you have 100% everything else, 100% scores on everything, at least in the past. That has been the way it was. They can, I think was the wording. That's probably changed that. So it was up to the teacher in the past, I think.
I don't know the situation with the 10 absences, but to speak to, I mean, when you say you should have to tell what the reason is, I just disagree with that. I just feel like if there's a parent who is going to continually cover for their kid for the wrong reasons, I don't know how you change that behavior. I don't think we can change that behavior.
I think the Becca bill is the intent to change that behavior, but that's
And that takes
beyond
care of
us.
itself. So
Right.
that's already in policy.
right.
What I'm thinking of is just that if I want to go somewhere for an extra day, in this case they did, they want to take an extra day for the weekend, I should be able to do that as a parent. In the old procedure, it said, one of the things is absence for parental approved activities. I would request that we just keep that in there, because I think that's good enough. And it was always good enough before, and I don't think it's against the law to do that because of that line that says we can create another category. And another thing, and I don't know if this is true, and I know that it was shared before, and I had heard it from our end, is that apparently when a child, it says I have to, and I forgot to bring this up, I apologize. If they say they missed because they weren't feeling well, the answer is no, we're gonna need a doctor's note. I have an issue with that as well, because we already have an overcrowding issue in the clinics. So let's just say my son wakes up in the morning and he throws up, just not feeling good. And I say, yeah, nobody wants him to be in school today, I don't want him to go when he throws up. He's fine the rest of the day, he just needed to be home. Why would I take my kid to a doctor because he threw up in the morning, and I would hope I wouldn't have to go through that step. And so, I don't know if that's part of the requirement, but I
Well,
heard that.
Okay, so there's a policy, if your child throws up within 24 hours, they cannot come to school. But it says, under B, it says valid excuses for absence, says illness. I think it's after 3 days. Because that big flu thing last year or 2 years ago, we got to day 4 on one of my kids, and they said, okay, I'm calling them in, they're sick again today. You have to get a no. We're at the day that you have to get a no. And it doesn't give the specifics within this about that kind of a detail.
Right.
But I think it's only after a certain period of time of
I
sickness.
think it needs to be in policy. And again, that would this parent's understanding was, if it was for an absence for being sick, they had to have a doctor's note. So I just want to make sure those are things that are really clear in what
Instead of
the procedure
open to
is.
interpretation or something along those lines,
And
right?
I think that we need to make sure that each school is following it the same way.
Right.
So I know that it has been, ever since the 10-day policy has changed to where medical, like even if you get a doctor's note, it still counts to your 10 days. I know that has been a pretty big, how to explain it? That's been kind of an issue within the students, and I've heard that a lot, to where like if I'm unable to go to school because I'm not feeling good, or I have a doctor's appointment, I have a physical, then even if I get a note, I could still possibly fail that class because it counts as my 10 days. And I think that's, a lot of the kids have been very confused, and some of them kind of agitated with that, to why does that count like negatively against me when, you know what I mean, when it's a health issue. So I think that's maybe something to kind of keep in mind, that even if you do, like kids with braces, they have to leave all the time because they can get their mouth fixed, but that still counts for it's 10 days. So I think I know it's not like exactly what fits into this, but I think that's something that should really be considered when talking about attendance.
For me, it always comes back to EL1,
Mm-hmm.
students first. What's best for students? And that's how I'll always gauge whether I think something is fair.
It's hard because, you know, it has been abused before. Because my mom used to work in the office, and she said that there's been some instances where there's a relative that works in the clinic, and then a student will skip, but then they will call the relative to like make a note to like allow the student. So I understand where that's coming from, but still, the student part of it I think is important.
Any other comments from the board on that?
I just had a question on that first line item where it says the following are valid excuses for absences, and the participation in district or school-approved activities has been crossed out. What's the,
So
that's still covered. I mean, you're on a
I'll-
sports team or a,
I'll tell you what I think happened on this. It went from 11 to 12 in the WAC. This doesn't necessarily reflect all of them, but there was one that said participation in district or school-approved activities, and the last one says an approved activity. So I think they're redundant, and
Oh,
they just
okay.
put them all in one. The last thing says an approved activity that's consistent with district policy and mutually agreed upon. So
Under
that would
N.
include district or
so
school
just
activities.
cleaning it up, okay.
I wanted the same thing when I first saw it. Okay. So that's all for board member discussions. We will move on to student representative reports.
Okay, so I don't really have that much, just more of extracurricular kind of little report. So I have our first volleyball game is tomorrow. First win of the season for our football game was last Friday, so that was pretty awesome. I had a question about the student rep, but that was already taken care of. There's a soccer home game on Thursday, and there's a volleyball home game on Thursday as well, and cross country was last Saturday. So we did have some pretty good feedback, or pretty good results from the cross country, and obviously the football game because everyone was there. But what was I just gonna say? And then, the mixer. I don't know if you guys heard about it, but the chess club threw a mixer after the football game. And I heard pretty good responses. I heard that, like, it was fun. A lot of people went. I personally couldn't go because I had a lot of homework. But I heard it was really fun, and that was pretty beneficial toward the chess club. And that's really all I have. If you have any questions?
How about Saturday?
Saturday, like this Saturday?
No, last Saturday after the activities. I see all the
Oh.
athletic.
Yeah, the athletes in action. I forgot
Yes.
about that. So Miss McCordy and well, I guess Kelzer. I think she's Mrs. Kelzer now, and Mayor Logan. They started the first annual Athletes in Action, which is where they wanted to have the Othello High School athletes give back to the community. So there was options to help customers at Leprechaun. There's options to help pick up garbage around the schools. There was socializing at Coventry House. I did that, and that was really fun. There was just picking up general walking dogs, helping anybody in need, and and the fair. They're helping the fairgrounds. I thought it was such an amazing experience because it really had us be immersed in the community and the community that supports us. That is really cool for the football players. They were talking about how they can see all of the people that go to their football games because it's a huge thing, but they never really got to meet them, if that makes sense, because they know their family and stuff. But I thought that was really interesting, something to have us put back in the community.
Do any of our ends policies fit into what you were just talking about?
Yes, it is it was I don't remember, which one is it? It's creating an atmosphere. Let me pull it real quick. There we go. E3, it's personal responsibility and citizenship. I really liked where it was the number 3, which was each scholar will demonstrate ethical behaviors, treating others with dignity and respect. I really liked how that showed us, and let me use a better verb. I like how that had us we had to exemplify what Othello High School has done for us. So we got to exemplify what we have learned. When we had learned to treat everybody with respect, we have learned to conduct ourselves with dignity, to pour into others. So I thought that I really like that. Did help the ends and
Well done, Taylor.
thank you.
Good participation in that, so a lot of the students came out for that activity.
Yeah, I was surprised. Miss Kelzer, she bought donuts for us, and there wasn't enough. She bought four big boxes, and there's a ton. And there's so many people that not everyone got a donut. So that was
Her
really cool.
Facebook post said $100 worth of donuts gone in 30 seconds.
It was all the football boys. All of them.
So give them the donuts first.
I know. They're all in the front.
Great. Anything else, Taylor?
No, that's all I have. I forgot to contact Josh Tovar to check in with DOHS. So I will get on that.
Okay, thank you. Item C1, required approvals. I'll entertain a motion.
I'll make a motion to approve the required approvals.
Been a motion by Director Johnson to approve,
Second.
second by Director Garza. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Moving on to item C2, superintendent informational items. These were 3 specific questions that came up. I believe Director Stevenson had asked about the staffing update, wanted to get an update once school started, where we're at with that. So the information there, Dr. Hirsch, did you want to talk about that at all, or is that just there for us to, it's
Yeah, it was just
really
provided
good
for
information.
your information. You can see it's pretty self-explanatory. Big dip in this year, 1920, down to 6 long-term subs. And I think we shared that specific information at a previous board meeting as well. So 31 the past couple of years, but then a big drop of this year. So that's great news for our system, and good job for Sandra Villarreal. her
And then
team.
the number of separations was also that those numbers have been dramatically decreasing.
Mhm.
Those by 2 to 3% every year. That's great.
And this is certificated staff specifically, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I remember, it seems like 4 years ago, it was probably 8 years ago. There was somewhere around 40-some new hires. We had a lot fewer certificated staff employees then, so sometimes the new hires are new additions, but
So-
redundant separations, that's.
Separations meaning they left the district voluntarily. Is that your definition of
I
a
would say yes.
separation? Okay. Yeah, those are great numbers. Thank you for the update.
You're very welcome.
And then the other two items is based on the questions I had asked from information I had received in our visit at the senior center. So start time for high school students and bell schedule change. What I thought was interesting in the start time for high school students, I asked Dr. Hurst, I know how the research supports that nationwide and even in Seattle schools, but I want to know what it did for us. And you can see that tardy students, 2016-17 was 1268 down to 1050 last year. And last year was when we started to have the significant later start time. So it was good to see those numbers, because I know originally I was under the feeling that, yeah, high school students need to go early, they need to go to bed earlier, but you can't argue with the numbers.
I think there also has been a greater focus on get here, be on time. I think that has affected as well some of these numbers, but I can't say that it hasn't made an effect as well by the start times. I know that my children are much happier, much easier to rouse in the morning this way.
Okay. Any other comments or questions for Dr. Hurst on those informational items? All right, we'll move on to item C3. This is the pre-approved presentation to the board from Scootney Springs Elementary.
Am I on? Good evening. So we are super excited to be here tonight to share just some of the work that we're doing this year and some of the work that we've done over the past couple of years at Scootney Springs. So all of our work this year it continues to support the big 3 initiatives for the district around teacher clarity, project-based learning, and social emotional learning. I know that you were just at Scootney Elementary, so you've seen our data. Just a real quick recap. We know that as far as the SBA is concerned, we have a lot of work to do. But we also know that when we look at our STAR data, that we can tell that we're moving in the right direction. So looking at the STAR data, we have pretty significant growth in almost every grade level in both ELA and in math. And we also have pretty significant growth in the cohorts as well as grade levels. So we know that with the correlation between STAR and ESPA, we're not seeing a one-to-one correlation yet. What we're noticing is that our students who are in blue, which is above standard in STAR, that's when they start passing the ESPA. So we can see that we're moving our kids in the right direction, but our goal this year is further faster. So we need to get them up into that blue. We have to get them further faster so that we start seeing the results on the ESPA also, not just in the STAR. We're also pretty pleased with our ELPA, our English language proficiency assessment, those passing rates. last year we had 39 students pass with having gained English proficiency last year, according to the LPA. So that's about 15% of our total. And in a couple of areas, we even surpassed the state. So in 3rd and in 5th grade, we had more students pass than the state average for those grade levels. So we're pretty excited. We also know that it's hard to pass the ESPA when you're still learning English. So this is kind of that first step. So under ENS 1, with that, which is that academic proficiency area, we are looking at what are we doing to move those kids further faster? What are we doing to make sure that the instruction is aligned with the end targets, and so they are learning what they need to learn in order to pass the ESPA at the end of the year? And one of the things that we're doing is we're really focusing on standards-driven planning. So this is a planning template that we're using for every single grade level and every single unit in math and in ELA. The intention is to ensure teacher clarity so that teachers know the standards before they begin teaching the unit, and they know that this is what my students will need to do, and to ensure that we're aiming for the right target. The first piece is to look at those state standards and figure out what are those in terms of learning intentions. So this is a 5th grade example here where they are learning the place value system. The next piece of that is the success criteria, and that's another component of teacher clarity. It takes the guesswork out of it for students, so students know what they're learning, and also when they'll know when they've learned it. So they'll know that they can meet that first standard when they can find the value of a number based on its location, and when they can explain that place value. If you move a number to the right, it decreases its value, and move it to the left, it increases. So that's a critical component there of the teacher clarity. And then possibly the most critical component here is the assessments, and ensuring that the learning targets are in line with the assessment. So really digging deeper and making sure that we understand how are our students being assessed, what are those learning targets going to look like, and then ensure that the instruction's in line. And again, this is something that we are doing in every grade level with all of our ELA and our math units.
Also part of our work in ENS 1 is TDG. And we're really excited because our 5th and 6th grade math teachers are involved with TDG this year, which is Teacher Development Group. And what they focus on are creating effective math classrooms, really understanding how kids learn math best, and really implementing powerful mathematic practices. And to do this, on the right-hand side, you can see habits of mind and habits of interaction. These are what they really focus on. So some of those are mathematical representations, making connections, really looking for patterns, and then having kids explain their thinking and listening to others, and looking for multiple ways to get the problem. They really focus on part of it is, you're going to get stuck and you may not understand it, but you will. So keep trying, keep listening, keep working. This is a really big shift for us because traditionally we learned math by learning an algorithm and then using the rote method to practice over and over. What this is doing is it's taking maybe 2 or 3 problems, but digging in deep so that the kids really understand the mathematics. Also with ENS 1 is QTEL. We were really excited that we had quite a few teachers be able to attend the QTEL training. And QTEL is quality teaching of English language. And really, it's just really, really good strategies and teacher moves that we can use with all kids. And as you can see on the left-hand side, that 3 moments in a lesson, this is a system that uses tasks specifically designed to encourage and promote student-to-student discourse. But then they also put in on the right-hand side, it's called a bookmark, and it's to scaffold the learning for the kids, or scaffold the conversation. So if they don't know really what to say to be successful in an academic conversation, they can use this to be successful. It's really nice because With TDG and QTEL, the strategies can be used concurrent because they really complement each other. So they're not that different. They really support students' learning.
So another focus this year is shifting our coaching model. So the idea is that at Scootney is that we're all learning and growing, and we all have areas where we can improve. So we will all be making use of the resources that we have, including our coach, in order to improve teaching and learning. So this is just a menu of what Mikey is able to provide for teachers, either individually or as a team, how she's able to support teachers in improving their practice.
So in ENS 2, these numbers shouldn't look too unfamiliar since we've just talked about them. But what we really want to point out is that last year was the first time we introduced PBL to our teachers, and 60% of our students participated in a PBL experience. Also, we had 100% of our students engaged in a quality STEAM project that was integrated into what they were already learning. And we were really excited because we had the opportunity to have a group of students from Uganda come into the school and teach us a little bit about their culture through music and dance. So we really feel like that we have positive momentum going, and we really just want to keep pushing forward. As part of our PBL, last year we just asked the teachers, because it was the first time they'd ever tried it, just get in, get muddy, try it out. And they came up with some really, really great projects. And this year what our focus is really focusing on that high quality. So we have a rubric here that tells us what a high quality PBL experience looks like, and really moving our teachers along that rubric to make sure that it's high quality, because we know that that's where it's going to be most effective. Again, in ENS 3, this slide just tells us we've got a lot of work to do here. We were really excited because the year before we had 7 students with perfect attendance, and this year we had 18, which is more than double, so we're very excited about that. We've increased dedicated SEL times in every classroom, and we've also been able to partner with Adams County and to bring a trauma-informed behavior program into the school. And we really feel like that we have a system in place now that's going to more effectively monitor our attendance.
Can you explain the trauma-informed behavior? What, to a lay person, what does that mean?
It's a system that...
I think you've lost your mic.
It's not your fault.
It's not. It's trauma-ing itself.
So actually, Deborah is our expert on this. If you don't mind, I'm going to pass the mic and let her explain it.
So a trauma-informed system is just sometimes students many times students come to us with trauma in their lives. And so there are some things that may trigger them or cause them to react more negatively to certain behaviors. So if you raise your voice with a child who experiences raised voices at home and sees them as dangerous, then it can actually cause them to behave in fear. And so a trauma-based support system is something that takes into account that trauma occurs at home and tries to soften any of that. So instead of a raised voice, maybe it's a tap on the desk, or instead of a whistle, maybe you've got a chime. So something that doesn't, that's designed to not trigger students. And these are research-based practices. In 3rd grade, we're using a system called PACS, which is the partnership with Adams County. We're also using Second Steps for some of that work, and restorative practice, restorative justice circles, things like that. Our new counselor is trained in restorative circles, and she's helping us with a lot of that. So these are practices that are that help support children who may have experienced trauma at home.
Thank you.
So this year, we're really focusing on attendance, and we really feel like the first step is to educate parents. So you guys were talking about it earlier. I really appreciate that. We really feel like parents need to know why it's so important to have their kids in school, and it does negatively affect them when they're not in school. So we do phone calls, we send out pamphlets like this one, we send attendance letters, and we set up meetings to make sure that we are getting the word out. We know that students sometimes have to be gone, but if parents know how important it is that their child is in school, maybe maybe we can lessen that and have kids in school.
I feel like we should have had 2 mics up here. So the next piece is our counselor supports. So this is a bit of a shift this year because we do have a new counselor. We're really excited that we've got Jill Powell joining us at the Scootney team. And one of the big shifts this year is we're really working on increasing our proactive student supports. So far this year, school has just started, and Jill has already visited all of our 6th grade classrooms in order to proactively address some of the common issues that we see in 6th grade. As a result of some of her visits, we actually have a group of 6th graders who have requested to create an anti-bullying club at their recess time, during their lunch and recess. And so their meeting and their purpose is to spread caring and kindness through the school, through this anti-bullying club, as a result of some of the meetings that Jill has had with 6th grade students already. She's also already sent out surveys to students and teachers. She started up at the upper levels, and we're working on getting that survey down to the younger students. It's harder to survey younger kids. But the survey is a way for students to self-identify areas where they might need some support, or they might need some help, they might need some training. It also has gone out to teachers so that they can identify students or refer students who might need some additional supports or counseling groups. And so she's working on how do we proactively support these students with their social emotional needs, maybe their behavior needs, whatever it is that's going on in their lives. How do we help them with that? She's also working to refine and improve our student referral process. So overall, we're really just working on proactive supports for students and teachers through use of our counselor, who is turning out to be a really amazing resource for us. Also a huge push at Scootney is social emotional learning and community building. And you guys got to see part of that during your tour. But we are focusing on dedicated time for community building and social emotional learning. Together we're working to build a culture of caring and kindness, and it happens one sharing at a time, one conversation at a time, one opportunity to play and have fun together, and all of those opportunities build, and we can work on building a strong community. Some of the programs that we're using, you're seeing some morning meetings or some circles here. We're also we talked a little bit about restorative circles. If there is an issue, Jill has already led a couple different restorative circles when there was issues between students, and some second steps lessons, bullying lessons, things like that we're already pushing out into the classrooms. So overall, our focus for the 1920 school year is ensuring a continuous improvement cycle within the system. We know that there's always room to grow. We don't have blinders on. We know that we have a lot of work to do in many areas. We also know that we've had some pretty big successes. So we want to build on those successes. We want to dig deeper into our areas of weakness, and we want to just keep growing and moving and never stopping. We're just continuing to improve. We also want to ensure that we have a strong foundational base K-2, because we know that if you are still trying to learn to read when you're in 3rd grade, then you're not focusing on what you need to be learning in 3rd grade, which is comprehension and deeper understanding and some of those skills that you need to build on your reading base. So we really want to work on that K-2 foundational base. And then we're also working to make sure that we have an effective system of social and emotional support. And all of that is in support of the district vision and mission of a safe environment with intentional instruction that's engaging and challenging. So that's the work that we're doing. Questions?
You answered all my questions in the middle, thank you. I did love seeing, it was obvious both in the teacher discussion and in visiting the classrooms that there was social and emotional learning that was going on, specifically at the times that we were there, but also that the sense of community is being discussed and that their well-being emotionally and socially was really a huge focus. It wasn't just about the education, it's the whole child. And I loved seeing that.
And I think what you find is that even though you've got that 20-minute morning meeting which is dedicated to that community building and SEL, it doesn't just stop there. The work that you put into that 20 minutes carries over into your entire school day. So the things that you talk about in your morning meeting about being a kind and caring person, or how do we respond if we're upset with somebody, you're reinforcing that throughout the entire day, so it carries on.
Anyone else?
No, I think it was one of a common thread. I want to thank you for your intentionality with the social emotional component of it. I don't know if it was coincidental. I don't think it was that. I think 3 of the 4 classrooms we visited, something was going on, and it was good to see that. I mean, you can sometimes see the quiet, shy student who doesn't interact a lot, but he's almost being forced to, in a good way, to interact. And even those students that, go into these visits year after year, you kind of sense or see these things. And that morning, it was great to see everybody was high-fiving everyone, high-fiving us, asking us how our weekend was and everything else. And I commend you for your intentionality in that, and I think it will produce great results. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
To add what Mike's saying, even if it's a kid who doesn't necessarily have these emotional issues at home, it forces them to start to have conversations in general. And I think some of these soft skills that we're seeing that students don't necessarily have when they're going to interview and things like that later on, I think putting them in those positions where it might make them a little uncomfortable to talk about it is good. One thing I want to bring up, because I just thought it was impactful, the comment in the staff meeting that we had, or the opportunity for staff to talk to us. A kindergarten teacher who has been there a long time made a powerful statement in that said, I have never had a kindergarten class more prepared than I have right now. And it was directly a comment regarding the preschool program and what's going with that. So I thought that was a big deal to hear a comment like that from somebody. And so kudos to the preschool program and the work that they're doing.
Absolutely.
Oh,
Did I turn my mic off? Maybe it's just not going to work.
You keep
Hello?
breaking our mics.
Oh, sorry. Yes, we know that we have fabulous teachers at the kindergarten level, and they can take students who come in not ready for kindergarten and get them ready for first grade. So what can they do with students who come in ready? We're really excited to see this year that we've got the majority of our students ready for kindergarten. So where can we bring them, and how can we support them, and how can they grow and develop? We're really excited to see that this year.
And the excitement for the parents who have the kids who have been ready, and now there's an opportunity for the kids who are ready to be able to start getting challenged too, because it's not trying to make that gap smaller, that gap's coming in smaller. And so I'm excited for what that has going forward. We're gonna know in a couple of years when they're in 3rd grade, we're gonna really start seeing the benefits of that. So, thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks for letting us come visit.
Oh, thank you for coming. Do you want this?
Okay, we'll move on to item D1, monitoring reports from the superintendent. We have EL1 monitoring report and EL11 monitoring report. Is there any questions the board has for clarification on those?
I have a question on EL11. Under the matrices, let's go to K6 first. It just says, let's see if I can figure out. Under level 1, it says dangerous behavior about halfway through on behavior. These were just clarifying. Can you define some of what those things are?
we talked about this with the principals, and they just define dangerous behavior as anytime a student is intending harm to themselves or to anyone else. And it could be anything soft, like climbing up a slide backwards, which is very dangerous. It's a safety hazard. Or it could be something more serious where they're playing with scissors and poking someone. So really, it's anytime they're going to cause themselves harm or someone else.
Okay. And then under the 7-12 matrix, it refers to HIB, minor under level 2 and level 3. One is minor HIB is the last one, and then level 3 it's about halfway through, or second, I'm sorry, it says severe HIB.
Yeah, and if you look further, and it's very tiny, you can barely see it, it stands for harassment, intimidation, and bullying. It's barely readable, but it is there in the legend. And the minor would just be a name-calling type bullying or harassment, and then the escalation could be cyberbullying. So something more serious would be the severe.
Okay. Oh, I see there is. I was looking up in the
Right.
matrix, and
It's
I
at the
didn't look
bottom.
down at the bottom.
Mm-hmm.
That's great, because some of it I was like, what is ES? Got it.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Thank you.
You're
That was
welcome.
all of my questions, just the clarification of those.
Any other questions from the board? I will accept a
Nope.
motion to accept.
I motion to accept monitoring reports for EL1 and EL11.
A motion by Director Garza to accept.
I will second that.
There's a second by Director Johnson. Any further discussion?
Can you all hear him off of his mic, just not being in the room? I don't know if it's me, or I can hear you but I'm just not sure if people can hear
If
your
it's
mic.
coming through the mic.
Because I have cold ears. I mean, I have a cold, so my ears are not hearing the same.
You're getting nods out there. I think they can.
Okay, all right.
Yep.
Just making sure.
Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Motion carries 5-0. Next item D2, board response to monitor reports. If you remember, this was from last board meeting, but we did not have a quorum, so that's why it's here again. For this EL, I'm going to move to question 1, everyone found in compliance. Question 2, we had 1 in compliance, 2 not in compliance. It looks like we only had
Only 3 answered.
3 answered on this one. 1 skipped it. Anyway, so there's some comments. So the majority of the ones who answered this found not in compliance on this item. And so to be specific, this is regarding the budget, and this is a failure. The superintendent shall not cause or allow a failure to provide the annual budget required for board approval at least 30 days before approval is needed. This report should be designed in a format that is easily understood by both the board and the community. The board should include both a summary version and a comprehensive version. One of the comments says, although we were given the summary version of the budget before August 1st, we were not given the comprehensive version until August 5th. On July 25th, in the Columbia Basin Herald, a notice of public hearing for the budget was published stating a copy of the budget would be available for review in the district office. It was also not available until August 5th. The board also did not receive the 4-year budget plan until August 9th, which is now a state requirement for full budget. Second item, kudos to Jeanette and her entire team for her work in this area. With limited time and in process of buying a home, did a great job. The third comment, while we have learned that the annual budget was ready to be distributed on the 1st of August, it was not made available to the board and community until the 5th of August. This results in a lack of compliance with this section of the policy. With that being said, I'm impressed that staff was able to have a budget ready for approval by the 5th of August. Considering we hired a new director of finance in May, she had a very short window of time to learn our district finances and prepare for this year's budget and 4-year projections. The difficulty in achieving compliance in this section for this year was not only understandable, but expected. The question would be for the board, what do we want to keep there? I think there's an understanding, not
Yeah, first, I just want to state that, any comments that I had are not towards Jeanette. She did a wonderful job coming on as late as you did and getting out what you did. You did a wonderful job. I just have to probably make a reflection back on EL2, and that's emergency succession. And there should have been some things, to me, in play already, so that whole burden shouldn't have been on Jeanette the last 6 weeks.
I would say in terms of comments that we keep, I think the third comment, the first full 2 lines, and then finishing that sentence with the third line of compliance with this section of the policy, I think is everything else basically either duplicates that or refers to Jeanette. I think we've expressed that we understand that there was already behind the 8 ball, even when she started. She did amazing things. But I think that's the specifics that we're most concerned about as to why it was voted the way it was.
So reiterate that again for me, please. Can you repeat what you think we should keep?
Keep, while we have learned that the annual budget was ready to be distributed on the 1st of August, it was not made available to the board and community until the 5th of August. This results in a lack of compliance with this section of the policy.
Okay. Straightforward, to the point. The rest of the board agree with that? Keeping that comment? Mike?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep.
All right. Capture that? Okay. Question 3 says a failure to allocate no more than 80% of the district's projected gross revenues to compensation and benefits, including consultants. This was answered by 4. 3 found in compliance, 1 found in compliance with an exception. I'm assuming the exception was the comment. It says in the report we were shown the wages and benefits for certified and classified employees was right at 80%, but that number did not show us how it included consultants. On August 12th, at the time the budget passed, the number was right at 80%. Since then, there has been OEA contract negotiations and
Renegotiations.
renegotiations in a future PSE contract. Thank you. All these will greatly affect that percentage. In the future, the board may want to review the percentage to hold to or to increase it. I would ask that question, I would just ask if that's true. Is that going to greatly affect our 80%? It was announced the other day that we have a
Tentative.
tentative agreement, and so.
Yeah, we do have a tentative agreement with PSE. And so the 80% will still be maintained in the budget. The EL5 is specifically within the budget that's presented, so the 80% will be in compliance with that.
So it won't have
So-
a great effect on that?
No.
How about were
Even,
consultants
yeah.
included in that 80%?
So consultants are a little tricky, I'll be honest with you. I think we just need to, I guess, dive a little bit further into specifically what that means. Because as a school district and, business in general, we contract with a variety of different people for different professions and different things. So I think that just needs, for me, I guess, some discussion and some clarity of what the board's intention is with that. Is it, specific to contractors who are providing work that, in a great sunshiny world we could hire directly, or is it, a consultant for a specific skill set that we wouldn't just hire a position for? Just those clarifications, I guess. Does that answer your question, kind of?
I think the answer is no.
Yes, the answer is no.
Okay. So, 3 found in compliance, 1 found in compliance with an exception. I guess if the comment made the board change their mind to an exception, then we can have further discussion. If not, then it's in compliance.
I think when this comes up for review, that it sounds like we need to better define our own
Consultants.
policy.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that, so I would say, no, I don't think that we need to keep the comment. personally, and that it currently is in compliance, but that we need to look at that at policy review.
I like the way you think.
I agree with that.
Okay, so we'll have that opportunity next board meeting to clarify that for staff, for Dr. Hurst. Question 4 was found to be completely in compliance. Question 5, question 6, the same. All right,
What was a comment on
was there
6?
overall comment? That's right, general comment. Thank you for providing an understandable budget for year 2019-20. Thank you, Jeanette, and your knowledge and hard work. There's no need to keep that in there. How big her head is now.
You're just gonna float right out of the room.
Does the board want to keep that comment, or?
Yes.
I think so.
All right. So, one will be, overall, this is in compliance with an exception, and that would be that one item. And there will be a general comment about, that was the last comment for Jeanette. Okay. We'll move on to item D3.
Do you need to approve it?
No, those are just survey monkeys. We have to approve those. We'll approve the monitor response document next time. GP7. This is specifically regarding board meetings. The only thing found to not be in full compliance was a comment on question 2, which deals with the required approval section, enables the board to efficiently deal with matters that have been delegated to the superintendent, but by law must be approved by the board, or which are routine matters. Throughout the year, the board will attend to required approvals as expeditiously as possible. One found in compliance with an exception, and this is mine, I believe. The comment was there have been a few instances where items have been placed in this section that may not be considered delegated to the superintendent. Budget approval is one that comes in mind. So that's on me to make sure that even though it might be something that we're required to approve, it doesn't mean they shouldn't be in there unless they were delegated to the superintendent. And so I'll do better to make sure that those are in their own items. Anyone want to argue with that? Okay, and then the last comment, or the comments that the board put in order to maintain its commitment to excellence and governance to the provisions of this policy and to improve its own performance, the board commits to the following actions. First one says continue to be as transparent in all ways, or yes, adhere to all applicable rules and regulations regarding OPMs, which would be the open public meetings. And then number 3, president commits to thoroughly reviewing required approval section prior to agenda being released to the public.
I think if we kept comment 2 and 3.
The rest of the board agree with that? Get nods. Okay. Comment 2 and 3 will stay. GP12 is next. And this was found to be in compliance. It was just one item there. Or no? Yeah, and then the response for the board to maintain its commitment of excellence says the board members commit to keep the superintendent informed when complaints have been made. No other commitments on that one, so.
I think it's a good comment. I think it should stay.
Okay, just want to remind the board that that's one thing we talked about, is making sure we're always putting something there, something that we're committing to doing a better job for the next year. All right, so that one stays. Move on to item E1, policy review. This was left in policy review. There was an addition to EL7 by Ken at the last meeting. That addition is item 1, a failure to, the superintendent shall not cause or allow a failure to maintain a 5-year facilities maintenance plan including a preventative maintenance plan for each facility.
I like this wording. I think it's good.
Now, since the last meeting, you talked about that there's a report that is sent to the state on facilities. Is this redundant to what that is? Because I don't think that report also, I don't think it addresses preventative maintenance issues.
No, the ICOS report does not include preventive maintenance.
Okay.
It's just an analysis of this, of the
It
status
is.
of each,
Yeah.
right?
Absolutely. So it's not redundant.
So what would be the difference between a 5-year facilities maintenance plan and a preventative maintenance plan? In your mind, Ken, what's the difference there?
To me, a 5-year maintenance plan is, could be identifying problems. And the maintenance plan, the preventative maintenance is to address them and to preventative maintenance so those issues don't arise again.
How does the board feel about
So would
the
this be
verbiage?
2 separate reports then?
Well, in a minute, I'm gonna ask Dr. Hurst's interpretation.
Maybe.
But, you're asking for Ken's intent.
Yeah, I'm asking, we're gonna have a maintenance plan and then adjacent to it or separate from that. Because I would think that the 5-year maintenance plan would identify areas that need improvement or what have you, and they would be, I think, included in one report, but I guess we need to hear the interpretation.
Well, I think Ken maybe can speak to what he is looking for too.
I was just looking for something, because I know we've got buildings that have issues and problems. And I know we're not going to be able to address the replacing them quick enough. For example, high school 600 wing, we know we have leaky roofs up there and stuff. So what I was kind of looking for is, using that one for an example, is we know what the problem is. It's been identified. But there's also preventative features that could be built in when the options or when those issues are taken care of, so they don't happen in the future. So they're less costly going down the road. Anytime you could get preventative measures built in, it's a lot less costly down the road than replacing.
So is the board good then with the verbiage as it currently is? I know Jen is, she likes it.
I guess I'm really curious on the interpretation, because it could be,
Yes.
depending upon an interpretation, it could be 2 separate reports. It could be in and of the same, so.
Yeah, I would say that I think I initially struggled when I read this a couple of weeks ago at the last board meeting. And to Mike's point, I see them as one and the same. So if we're creating a 5-year maintenance plan, then that maintenance plan contains the preventative maintenance over a period of 5 years as well. So I struggled with having a 5 years maintenance plan, which includes preventative maintenance, and then a separate maintenance plan for each facility. I would like to see it say a failure to maintain a 5-year facilities maintenance plan. And my interpretation would be all facilities, not just school buildings, but all facilities, that we have a plan for maintenance, which includes preventative maintenance as well. So it's one plan.
Did
So
you
I-
see it as 2, Ken, or did you see it as 1?
I seen it as one, but I could see where you're seeing it as 2, and where you have to follow that, which I would have no problem. It's saying a failure to maintain a 5-year facilities plan to include all facilities within the OSD district.
Well, I think if it's a facility,
Yeah.
it's all of them. It,
Yeah.
it doesn't say
Facility, yeah, each
campus, it
facility.
says facility.
All
Right,
facilities, yeah.
okay.
And that, part of what I was struggling with was the difference between maintenance and preventative maintenance, really a true difference between those two. To me, they're the same thing, but maybe I'm not looking at it properly. So would the board be open to a failure to maintain a 5-year facilities maintenance plan for each facility? For each district facility?
I'd be okay with that.
Or a
Hearing,
5-year maintenance plan for each facility?
because I think we now know that Dr. Hurst interprets that to be inclusive of a preventative maintenance schedule of some kind.
Jen, are you okay with that verbiage got changed?
That verbiage with that,
For each facility. With that
what-
interpretation.
interpretation,
Yeah.
thank you,
Yes.
that's the right word.
Would you wanna say?
But that
facility
doesn't always
maintenance?
mean we're gonna have this interpretation. I mean, Dr. Hurst is not gonna be here for probably 30-plus years
The board
either.
responds based on monitoring reports, right? If we feel like, okay, that we thought there was an understanding of the interpretation, then we have a
Right,
chance to
right.
rewrite it, but
But Ken, I'm curious to see what you think about that change.
No, I have no problem with that.
Okay,
As long as we get something in there to deal with the facility maintenance and make sure that it's kept up on.
there's a plan.
Yes. Which this policy did address before it was changed last year, but with all the changes,
That got lost.
it got lost, and so the title of it was completely different from what
What it
everything
listed.
else in the policy.
Rob, I think what did you,
I just wanna ask if it's a little redundant to say that 5-year facilities maintenance plan for each facility, or 5 years maintenance plan for each facility, would that be good enough to say 5 years maintenance plan? Does facility need to be there before maintenance plan? That was what I wanna make sure. I would suggest too that maybe we look at that title, and just say protection and maintenance of district facilities. Cause I don't know where this talks about short and long-term facilities program.
because that's all up to interpretation, if 5 years is short or long. So, yeah,
And
I
it says
like,
short and long, and we only say 5-year. So I would say, based on how we're writing it, I would also recommend we change the title. And just take that piece out.
so I think this is going up for second revision with all of those things. I don't think we should, with all of those changes, I don't think we can approve it.
Yeah, I don't think we've done anything yet anyway, so this would be first reading, we can come back for a second reading with the.
No,
changes
this is
we
a
talked about.
revised, because last week, or last time
You
it was
made a
the
word
first.
change.
Well, yeah, we did a word change.
You did a word change.
So
What word did we change?
I changed something on the phone, I can't remember, but I remember saying it reads better this way.
Oh, okay, that's right. Okay, so you can come back again with that, so just so we're clear, title would be changed to protection and maintenance of district facilities, that's all. And then the, item 1 would say a failure to maintain a 5-year maintenance plan for each facility. Okay, so that will be back in policy review for final approval next meeting. Any more comments on that? Okay, move on to item G1, upcoming events. In
I
case you
do
didn't
have
know,
a question.
Othello Fair's this week.
Do we always have to have an executive session listed in here, even if we're not having an executive session?
We don't have to, but this is just what our agenda says.
Sometimes, is it always listed this way? Okay. All right.
It can be taken out, if the board would like me to take it out, or actually Dr. Hurst to take it out when there is no executive session, it can be. But it changes the numbers then. So typically then
And
if you
so
took out
adjournment
E,
would be G, it
It would
is
become
what
F.
you're saying. I see.
Yeah.
Okay. Can
I
we
think
just
about-
not have, if it doesn't have a 1, I know that would probably mess the whole system up, though.
No,
If
that
it
can
doesn't
come
have a
out.
1, then then it's also a trigger to say, oh, there's also a 0 minutes there.
Yeah. It could be changed a little bit that way. And on workshops, I definitely modify this agenda.
Right.
Because there's so much that just doesn't apply.
Yeah.
But if the board would like me to, I just make sure that.
So it's just a
one comes out of
blank
there.
space.
Well, it could even say at item F, no need for executive session. It could be changed to say that.
Okay. Because even on the last minutes of the last meeting, it said F1, no executive session. And it just looked so funny on notes.
I think the minutes come right off the agenda, right? That's just the way the system works, so.
Right. So anyways, okay.
Dr. Hirsch, allow me to do that, please. Okay. September 17th, Wahidas Open House, Wahidas Elementary. We'll move on to item G2, Board of Self-Assessment of Meeting. Please complete the survey. Okay, first item, the agenda was well planned to focus on the real work of the board. 5 said commendable. The board followed its agenda and did not allow itself to get sidetracked. 5 said commendable. The board's deliberations and decision-making process were public. 5 said commendable. All board members participated in discussion. No one dominated. 3 said commendable. 1 said good. 1 said satisfactory. Members listened attentively, avoiding side conversations. 5 said commendable. Board actions occurred at a policy level rather than an operational level. 5 said yes. The board agenda referenced policy about each topic that was discussed. 5 said yes. The board chair helped the board efficiently conduct its meeting. 5 said yes. The board supported the superintendent in any reasonable interpretation of his policies. 5 said yes. All right, any comments with that? No, it doesn't show up on mine. Okay. And under new or modified policies, did the board write a new or modify an existing policy during the meeting? Did not write a new policy, but modified an existing one. The board started with a broad statement and became more detailed in a logical and disciplined sequence. 4 said yes, 1 said not applicable. Not even gonna go into it. The board asked the superintendent to provide his reasonable interpretation of the policy. 5 said yes. And overall, the 4 said the meeting was commendable, 1 said good. Well done, board. Business is concluded, meeting